troubling and dangerous developments in our nation's history. What was the COVID pandemic that killed millions worldwide and was used as an excuse to shut down businesses, rig election laws, close our schools, and confine our people to what amounted to indefinite home detention. Was all of this created by gain-of-function research that our government helped to fund and then to cover up?
Yep.
We're going to find out so that never happens again.
Yeah.
Have the most powerful and terrifying agencies of the government been politicized and weaponized against the critics of this regime in a manner that was deliberately designed to suppress free speech, hide critical information from the American people, intimidate political opposition into silence, and subvert the rule of law? We're going to find out about that too, so that it never happens again.
All right.
And were millions of dollars from foreign oligarchs and governments laundered through a corrupt drug addict to the highest official in the land? Did these payments influence the policy of our government, and do they continue to influence it today? We're also going to find out about that so that it never happens again.
Awesome.
Those 5 votes in the House make it possible for us to get answers to these questions, and by doing so, to assure that this appalling corruption never threatens our fundamental liberties as Americans. But even more important, those 5 votes give us the ability to pass legislation out of the House that can reverse the damage that's been done to the quality of life of every American under this leftist regime. Yes, Schumer's vowed to bury these reforms. Biden has vowed to veto them, but they can no longer prevent them from passing the House. And that means that those 5 votes give us the ability to pass this legislation, offer the hope for a better way of life for the American people, and appeal to them for their help to save our country. As Abraham Lincoln told the Congress in 1862, will not the good people respond to a united and earnest appeal from us? Can they by any other means so certainly and so speedily assure these vital objects? John Adams put it this way as they debated the Declaration of Independence. He said, I care not how fickle other people have been found. I know the people of these colonies. I know that a love of liberty is deep and seated in their souls and cannot be eradicated.
Amen.
Those 5 votes were enough to pass H.R. 1 that would open up America's vast energy resources once again, while removing the biggest impediments that the left has imposed that prevent us from developing our vast mineral resources, our vast water resources, and that prevent us from restoring our forests so they can grow healthy and fire-resistant in perpetuity. Next week, we're going to take up the debt limit. And those 5 votes are enough to attach H.R. 1 to grow the economy, rescind the hundreds of billions of dollars of green energy subsidies that serve no purpose but to transfer the earnings of American families to crony capitalists, and to require able-bodied Americans to work as a condition of receiving a welfare. And as chairman of the House Immigration Subcommittee, I'm responsible for producing legislation that's necessary to restore our national sovereignty, and those 5 votes are the key to being able to do so. You know, think back, on Inauguration Day, our border was secure. The Trump policies had slowed illegal immigration to a trickle. It's no coincidence that working Americans saw their wages grow faster than at any time in 40 years. The income gap between rich and poor was actually narrowing for the first time in decades. That afternoon, Joe Biden changed all of that. The Democrats deliberately initiated the largest illegal mass migration into our country in history. In the last 27 months, they've deliberately admitted 2 million illegal aliens into our country. 2 million. That is larger than the entire population of the state of Nebraska. While the Border Patrol was overwhelmed, another 1.5 million known gotaways entered as well. That's an additional illegal population larger than the entire state of Hawaii. All of that in just 27 months. So for Americans, that means classrooms packed with non-English speaking students. It means hospitals flooded with illegals demanding uncompensated care. It means violent criminal cartels and gangs introduced into our communities, and sanctuary policies that make deportation of convicted criminal aliens all but impossible in most cases. It means a fentanyl epidemic claiming 300 American lives, the equivalent of 2 737 jetliners crashing every day. It means suppressed wages for working families as the labor market is flooded with cheap illegal labor. Our legislation restores the policies that worked and make it impossible to abuse our asylum laws in the future. And those 5 votes are enough to pass that bill out of committee this week, and I believe will be enough to pass it out of the House next month. The commitment to America on which Republicans campaigned and those 5 votes were secured lays out a blueprint for restoring the freedom, the prosperity, and the security that Americans once took for granted. We now have a House Republican leadership in place that is demonstrating to the American people that we stand by that commitment and we are capable of delivering it, even with just that 5-vote majority in the House. And then it's going to be up to the American people to send us the tools to finish the job in 2024.
Yep.
And we need to remind them, and sometimes also remind ourselves, that there was a brief moment not long ago when we held majorities in the House and the Senate, and we held the presidency. And I would remind the most jaded cynics in our party that we accomplished a lot in those 2 years. We delivered one of the biggest tax cuts in American history. We produced the biggest regulatory rollback in American history. We delivered a pro-Constitution majority to the U.S. Supreme Court. We achieved American energy independence, and we secured our borders. And these policy victories produced for the American people one of the greatest economic expansions in our history. The lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, the lowest poverty rate in 60 years, the fastest wage growth in 40 years. For the first time in decades, the gap between rich and poor was shrinking. We were producing more oil than Saudi Arabia or Russia. Our petroleum reserve was brim full, and on Inauguration Day, gasoline sold for $2.39 a gallon.
Oh, gosh.
In just 27 months, the left has reversed all of this. By printing and spending trillions of dollars we didn't have, they ignited the worst inflation in 40 years. By waging war against fossil fuels, they've caused energy prices to soar while draining the strategic petroleum reserve to its lowest level in decades. By refusing to enforce immigration law, they produced the largest illegal mass migration in history. By attacking the police, refusing to prosecute dangerous criminals, and making it impossible to deport criminal illegal aliens, they've made our cities unsafe for decent Americans. You know, when people ask me, how could all of this be happening to our country? I tell them, if you voted for the Democrats, this is exactly what you voted for. And if that surprises you, you weren't paying any attention. And it's going to continue to get worse until the people responsible for these policies are turned out of office en masse. And that day is coming soon.
Yeah.
And if you wonder how bad things can get, just remember that wherever the left takes control, you see all of the same social and political and economic pathologies. Failing schools, rising crime, rampant homelessness, rising poverty, sky-high taxes, chronic shortages of the basic necessities of life, water, gasoline, electricity, housing, food, and energy shortages, crushing utility bills for water and electricity and gas. You see steadily worsening traffic congestion, more and more meddlesome restrictions on every facet of life, bitter racial strife, faltering businesses, and ultimately fleeing families. That's what socialists do. That's what they've always done. They claim they're helping people, that capitalism is selfish and their brand of socialism is sharing and helping others, but the truth is exactly the opposite. The only way to succeed in a capitalist society is to find out what other people need and figure out how to provide it for them better than they could provide it for themselves. Now that's true whether sweeping the floor or designing the latest microchip. Socialism is taking by force what one person has earned by helping others and giving it to someone who hasn't. You know, when they take $1 from Peter and give it to Paul, yeah, it's true, Paul's got an extra $1 to spend in the economy. But it's equally true that Peter now has $1 less to spend in that very same economy. But here's the real damage. Socialism's now robbed both of them of $1's worth of incentive to help each other. Peter because he no longer benefits from helping others for that $1, and Paul because he no longer needs to. And it shouldn't surprise us that an ideology that has to use force to replace the voluntary exchanges of a free market also will not hesitate to apply that same force to intimidate dissenters, suppress free speech, establish a two-tiered justice system based on race and political and religious beliefs, to dismantle constitutional institutions that stand in their way, and ultimately and fundamentally destroy democracy itself. Lincoln told his generation that they were destined to either nobly save or meanly lose. This, the last best hope of mankind on this earth. It's the same question today, because slavery and socialism spring from exactly the same poisonous principle. As Lincoln put it, it's the same spirit that says, you work and toil and make bread, and I will eat it.
Oh, yeah.
That wheel's come full circle. And now the future of the American Republic and all that it means to humanity is in our generation's hands. And like it or not, history will remember us for it. Stanislaus Republicans are doing their part and then some. You sent us John Duarte. You delivered one of those 5 crucial votes.
Yeah.
Our job is now to expand those margins, take the gospel of freedom throughout the Central Valley, and fulfill that biblical command inscribed on our Liberty Bell. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land and unto all the inhabitants thereof.
Amen.
Thank you. God bless you all.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Tom McClintock. You're awesome. Thank you.